Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, I thought I had properly balanced the light in here, and turns out either there's a nuclear winter going on outside, or I have not, in fact, properly balanced the light in here. Am I going to turn around and look? No, I'm going to assume it's an outside problem, not a me problem.
And really, at this point, if it is nuclear winter, thank you for joining us for our last show. We do appreciate your time. And welcome, everybody, to a live edition, maybe the second ever, of our bold prediction show. I believe I won the first one 11-0. So
I'm going to boldly predict that isn't true, but go on.
Well, you can't predict something that's in the past, although you try it. You do try it with your bold predictions. You try to boldly predict something that has happened 14 times. You're like, I think this is going to happen once in this game. And it's like, bold, boom. No, Tom, no. But thank you all for joining us. I am, I don't know if this is a show we've been dreading.
Yes.
Okay. It's a show we've been dreading. And a little bit like the Michigan thing where it's like, none of these predictions in a vacuum are bold.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really, really not bicker with what I have to say. And I can't promise I won't bicker.
Mm-hmm.
So, but without any further ado, and since I won the Michigan bold prediction show, which we don't need to talk about, players are tired of talking about it. I'll let you go first.
All right. Well, let's see. I have not had time to put together specific notes, but you know what? Here, let's start with this one. Two different Buckeyes over 100 yards receiving in the game. That has only happened twice this year against Power 5 teams. It happened against Arkansas State. It happened against Toledo. I'm going to boldly say that Arkansas State and Toledo don't really have any bearing on the Georgia defense, but two different Buckeyes have over 100 yards receiving.
You know, the reason that will happen is, of course, you believe Ohio State will be trailing and they need to throw the ball. You don't think they can run the ball. Mm-hmm. This is it makes total sense. How many times has Georgia allowed it to happen this year?
I didn't look at that.
Because that seems like it would be a key stat. And really, this point, normally when we're recording the show, we will pause and I will do research. Mm-hmm. But and there's no way you're going to be able to figure that out, just so you know. It's like, it's not something you can just Google, Tom. I feel like they've probably done it 8-9 times. Somebody has against Georgia this year, you know. So I feel like we're going to have to allow this in some form or fashion because, again, we're trying to I've got predictions to make as well. Mm-hmm. So the more of a fight I put out,
or the higher receiver for Oregon had 37 yards. I'm not going to look for Samford. South Carolina. Okay. I'll just start.
You skip Kent State.
No, I didn't skip Kent State. You go. Why don't you go ahead and make your first? Okay. Yes, high of 53 yards for South Carolina.
And that's
high. The second highest receiver for Kent State had 40.
All right, but what about like Tennessee? And if it didn't happen against Tennessee,
no one did it for Missouri.
It did not happen against Auburn.
Yeah, it didn't happen for Vanderbilt. Florida actually threw the ball all over them.
And so did LSU.
Tennessee.
LSU has to have two receivers with 100 yards, right? They threw for 500.
You would think.
So I think
Florida.
The fly in your ointment here.
Florida only had one. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, Florida only had one.
I was looking at the same thing. And Tom.
Man, you were about to talk yourself into this being a 2-pointer. Tennessee only had one.
Okay.
So this would probably be the first time anyone has done this year against.
Well, let's see what LSU had to say about that.
LSU, who threw for 500 yards, had 128 and 107. So basically, this is maybe the single boldest thing that either of us will predict
perhaps
all show.
The boldest 1-pointer, a definite 1-pointer, no more. I would have accepted without all of the research.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just glad people are getting to see what I have to deal with.
No, I'm not able to write these down.
Well,
we'll remember them.
I have mine.
I have mine as well. Okay. Tom, my first bold prediction, at some point in this game, and these are not at the same time, but one team will have 17 points. Another team will have 34 points. and it's not the same team.
Not the same team and not the same time.
Right. Or it could be the same time. Unless if it happens at the same time, it doesn't count.
17 and 34 points. See, the problem is 34 will just if you score 5 touchdowns, you will have 34 before you. This seems like basically you're picking a team to score 17 points.
But you have to score 17.
You're picking a team to.
You know Ohio State isn't going to be like they don't want field goals.
What else do you have that's not garbage?
How about this one, Tom? Cade Stover will have more receptions than Brock Bowers.
I have to allow that one. That's a good one. There you go.
They're all good. It's just some you don't like because they're too good. That's the problem with the bold predictions. Sometimes they're too good.
That's your problem. Your stuff is too good. I was just saying that the other day. Yes. Okay. So that's good.
All right. Okay.
Let's see. CJ Stroud has had only one game with more than 34 pass attempts all season long. He has at least 40 passing attempts in this game. At least 6 more than his second highest.
Do you know how many passes he throws on average against top 10 teams? About 50. And you can go to CFB stats. You can pull up his stats and you can do some averages. But you look at the Michigan game this year. Did he do it against Michigan this year?
I don't. He did. That was the one that was higher than 34 this year. Yes.
And then last year against Michigan. Last year against who did they play in a bowl game? Obviously Utah. And then there's 2 more last year. Would you say 42?
Would I say 42?
You said 34, right? You said 40.
I said 40.
40. If you take it to 42, if he hits 42, at least 42.
42. Okay.
I honestly don't think he's going to be throwing that much. So, my next one, Tom. At some point in the game, one team will have 17 points.
What else you got?
How about this one? Ohio State converts 3 4th downs in the game. Now, this is something that Georgia has allowed once this year. Ohio State has done it once this year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's a 1-pointer. It should be actually more like a 2 or 3, but and it's happened once.
I'll take it as a 1-pointer. That's how not 1-pointer I think. Not 2 and 3-pointer. I think
you think Ryan Day's going to just be kicking field goals because that's all he can do.
No, I think I would like to see Ryan Day not kick field goals. Is what I would like to see. They convert at least 3 4th downs.
Yes, or at least almost. Like if they come up a yard short on a 4th and 1, we got to count that. So we're good.
Except for all the stuff you just said, I'm going to allow this, and I think this seems like one that I'm being a little charitable because it feels like they are going to be going for it on a lot of 4th downs.
But it's only happened once for Ohio State and once against Georgia. So. Mm-hmm. And you can find that on CFB stats if you don't believe it. Because I did my research. Why? Because I respect the viewers and the listeners.
All right, Tony. Ohio State has scored on 55 of 58 red zone trips this year. 3rd in the country.
Yes.
They come up empty on at least 1 red zone trip.
No, Tom. That's not bold. That's expected.
They've only come up short 3 times. All season long. I mean,
and then the thing is like, well, it's just 3 times out of 58 attempts, and so I'm saying like this will be the 4th out of 59. It's like, well, that's pretty bold. But
it is pretty.
It's mathematically bold. It's not football bold. Gosh, darn! And the last time you did this, didn't it work?
I don't know. I don't ever remember doing this before.
One of us has, and see. When you start putting math in it, and mathematically it is bold, and it's frustratingly bold. So they go.
They come up empty. Not they're kicking field goals. They are over in the red zone.
See, I don't think they'll even get to the red zone. They're going to be dropping bombs from 40 yards away. So I have to allow this just because of the whole mathematical nature of it.
And if it's so bold because we're dropping so many bombs, if you want to make it a 3-pointer, that's fine. We can do that. But
just because Ohio State will be draining threes from 40 yards out. No, Tom, I will not. Here's Tom. This one is especially and specifically for you. Ryan Day will not kick a field goal.
They will not attempt a field goal during the game.
Ryan Day will not. Ohio State will not attempt a field goal during. No, I have it. Ohio State will not kick a field goal. So we'll go ahead and say Ohio State will not even attempt a field goal in this game. And this is not a mathematical thing. This is a Tom Orr thing. This is a you thing. And you don't see any way that can happen. And so now I have played you against yourself. You've just been played.
Well, this is something I would like to see them not do. So this is sort of, I guess, an emotional hedge of sorts where it's like, oh, look at you. You did the thing you're supposed to do.
Is this entrapment?
It does feel a little bit like entrapment, yes. If you're an FBI agent, you have to tell me. This is another one that doesn't feel particularly bold because they keep saying.
They're saying all of the right things.
They're saying all of the right things.
I think they even left Noah Ruggles in Ohio.
Pretty sure I saw him at practice.
Oh, okay.
Each of the last 2 days. But could it have been a body double? Look, you were advocating doing your own research before. It feels like.
So, Tom, just go ahead and accept it because you have to.
All right. I'm going to accept it because I have to.
That's the only reason.
We are staying in the same hotel room for the next 3 nights. This is the only reason we are not.
And we're probably going to be doing
like
a long stream tomorrow and perhaps certainly one after the game and perhaps one the day after as well. So, and we have one bench to sit on. So.
Yes. All right. So Ohio State has 30 pass plays of 30 plus yards this year, which is basically 2 and some change per week, per game. They have 14 pass plays of 40 plus yards. Georgia is allowing 21 pass plays of 30 plus yards and 12 pass plays of 40 plus yards. So essentially, Georgia is allowing like 2 per game of 30 and 1 per game of 40. I'm going to say Ohio State does 3 of 30 plus and 2 of 40 plus.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, these are all separate.
These are not all separate. No, at least 3 pass plays of 30 plus yards and at least 2 pass plays of 40 plus yards.
So you just expect that you're banking that the 30 yarders become 40 yarders, but still 3 30 yarders. I'm going to allow this, even though we have watched so much Georgia this year where guys get beat deep and they get destroyed, and it's like, oh, there goes Keely Ringo again, giving up a big play. But even 2 of 40, you said 3 of 30,
3 of 30, and 2 of 40.
Even
yes.
2 of 40, I think is, it would be hard to say because you're doubling everything up there.
Yep.
So I will allow that. I have a similar one, but it's later on. So I will allow that one. Good job, Tom. My next one. At some point in the game, somebody will have 17 points and somebody will have 34 points. Do you want to make it to where they can't be at 35? It has to stick at 34 for at least 3 minutes.
Yes.
I hope there's a review.
Oh,
you said it. You took your finger off the checker.
3 minutes of gameplay.
3 minutes of wristwatch time.
3 minutes. It has to be 34 points after the ensuing kickoff.
But it can be the same team. The same team that scores 17 can also score 34. Because you got to remember, I don't think Ohio State's kicking a field goal. So now Ohio State cannot be either of these teams. So it has to both be Georgia. That's why I need that, because obviously all of mine are going to come true. So I have to make sure that they are in line with what I'm saying.
I feel like I need to add at least one more scores in. Pick a quarter 2 through 4, and in that quarter, the point totals don't count. So
how about this?
Not in the first quarter.
None of the scores can come from the 17 or 34 yard line.
When you get me with Cannon,
Have you written all of that down?
No, I have
Okay.
no plans to write in all of that down. All right, so I have one more.
So do I.
And I just have a bunch of things. How about this one? Ohio State allows exactly 1 sack.
I mean, it's not, again, it's not bold, but you're trying to pick something out of a hat.
I'm trying to pick something out of a hat, and because I thought about Ohio State allows 0 sacks, and
I feel
maybe
like 1 is like the most common number, but it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
they've allowed 1 in every single game. Well, that's just happenstance,
right? They haven't, and they haven't allowed 1 in every game. They've allowed much less than 1 in every game, and Georgia's actually not great at getting to the quarterback.
They average like 2.
Yeah, so. This is kind of like, I mean, I could make it 2 just as easily as I could make it 1, and it's kind of like same. Yeah, but
all right,
same. Yes, so Ohio State allows exactly 1 sack.
This is more of a happenstance, prediction than bold, but it's all. I mean, are we that scientific here? I am. You are not. Here's my final 1-pointer. Tom, an Ohio State Buckeye scores on both a catch and a run. And this could be a 2-pointer, but I'm going to stick with 1.
An Ohio State Buckeye scores on both a catch, so it shows up in the rushing stats.
I'm not trying to dupe you. I'm not trying to fool you.
Both shows up in the rushing stats with a touchdown and in the receiving stats with a touchdown.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have to allow that.
I don't know how many times it's happened this year. I don't know I know it has. Like Emeka has done it.
Yeah.
I assume maybe Xavier Johnson has done it. I don't know, but it's not an often thing. All right. Good job. We're already now almost all of our 1-pointers are done. 17 minutes into the show. We're moving right along. I feel like these are going to go smoothly as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what these are going to be. So let's see.
Should we do the one we handy the gift bold prediction first?
Yeah,
because that'll be easier.
Yeah. So you have to give me 1, and I have to give you 1.
Yeah.
At least 2 Ohio State running backs record at least 1 positive carry.
Okay.
1 carry for positive yards.
Thank you. I appreciate that one.
Does that seem fair and within the spirit of the exercise?
Yes, and we'll see if this one feels fair to you as well. Ohio State will make all of their PATs.
Okay. Hang on. 1-point PAT kicks, correct? That's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That also means if they just kick field goals, Tom, you lose.
Yeah, that's true. If they won't have missed. No, if they don't score any touchdowns,
well, I guess they
haven't missed. They will make all of their kicks.
You can't miss if you don't.
Try. That's the 2016 Clemson.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
0 of 0 is all.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now the 2s and the 3s. This will go swimmingly well, I am sure.
All right. So let's see.
Just like you're sitting somebody down for a talk.
And here's one that I'm going to throw this out there, and we can modify it as
already
necessary.
I say no.
We can modify it as necessary. Georgia fumbles at least twice, and Ohio State recovers at least 1 of them. This is not one I had necessarily set out as a 2-pointer.
I think a 2-pointer would be they recover both. Because
Ohio State recovers at least 2 fumbles.
There you go.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
and they might need to win the game.
Okay,
and if they do that, Tom, you're trying to will this thing, because we have watched them, and it's like just the fumbles aren't even forced. So what happens if Ohio State actually forces? Good job, Tom. Let's see what you feel about this one. Stetson Bennett, Georgia quarterback. Will throw for more yards in this game than C.J. Stroud, Ohio State quarterback. 2-pointer. Now, I think this could also be a 3 because we'll talk about my 3 later, but I think that's I don't know how many times he has done, like He's had some good games.
He has had some good games, yes.
But I don't think anybody expects him to throw for more yards
No.
than CJ Stroud, especially if Ohio State is trailing, as people would expect them to do. So this could be like a 450-yard day for CJ Stroud, and they lose by 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
If it's 450 yards for Stetson Bennett, then I don't think anybody's going to mind if I get this one right.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pull up game-by-game stats for Stetson Bennett right now. Individual.
You can do that at cfbstats.com. Your favorite. That's my favorite. It's a go-to. I don't like this whole setup that
see, I'm trying to use
schools use now.
Yeah, I don't care for it. All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to tentatively allow this because it does feel it just as you were saying it, it felt very bold.
Yeah.
So that to me,
go to your left to game log.
All right. So he has thrown for 368 against Oregon, but then basically not more than 316 after that. So yes, I will definitely take this as a
look at that Kentucky game. 116 yards.
Tony, there was wind.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I'm not sure if you remember that, but there was wind. So okay, so that's a good one. All right. And then let's see, for my 3-pointer, there's a few things that I have here. One is, Tony, if I told you that Ohio State was going to do something in one particular game that they had not done since the first game I came back to cover the team with you again, Indiana in 2017, that would inherently be insanely bold. So bold to merit a 3-point score. Would you agree with that?
No.
Agreed. Okay, good. So we're on the same page here. Tony, Ohio State not just attempts, but successfully converts a 2-point conversion in this football game. Hasn't happened since Indiana in 2017.
You knew this. This has all been a scheme to get you this 3-pointer. This entire thing. I didn't want to do a bold prediction show. The people didn't want it. The only person that wanted it was Tom. And we do see all the comments. We're
going to get to the comments in a minute.
This is infuriating. Now, I will only regulation. Because again,
it can't come from the 3-yard line. Yeah, no, that
no, but because in the it can come in overtime, but not once it's in triple overtime. Because those are real 2-point conversions.
Yes, that's fair. Yes.
Oh, I don't like this at all. That feel and here's the other thing. It should not count more than the actual 2-point conversion.
Well,
it should be a 2-pointer.
I didn't make the rules. I mean, technically we did, but
we did. Yes. What? Yeah, that's you've gotten me on a technicality here. Letter of the law type of thing. So that's the worst kind. That's, as we know, that is the best kind. That is the worst kind. So yeah, but I'm glad to hear you think Ohio State's going to score a touchdown. Good job.
Yeah, that was the unstated bold prediction there. David Greenshield with his super chat saying, "I get his 84 Don Rust Darryl Strawberry card if Ohio State wins." So now I have a rooting interest in the game. So that's good.
I will sell you my 84 Topps Strawberry rookie. Actually,
that would have been a top traded.
So yes. I do not have that. I have the 85. So or the 80. Yeah, no, the top traded. I never was able to get those because I live in the country and we just got like the wax packs. So you're probably a city boy that you could go get them traded box sets.
I have a 1984 Darryl Strawberry Topps traded. Yes.
Anyway,
I do not have the Don Russ as far as I know.
Anyway, now I'm even angrier. My 3-pointer. This is something that has happened for Ohio State 3 times this year. Happened against Georgia just twice this year. You average those out, and it's like 1.5.
Times this season, and you'd like 3 points for this. Yep, go on.
Ohio State will complete a pass of at least 60 yards.
I mean, you're talking about something that has happened multiple times this season. And Georgia's happened multiple times this season.
What if I go 69 yards.
There, now you have me. Yes, that's it. That's all we needed to do. I was thinking about whether I was going to negotiate at that point, and then I figured, yeah. So no, okay, that's it. There you go.
So there we are. That's all of the bold predictions. I still don't like the 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like most of what you've done here, Tom. I feel manipulated. I feel lied to.
Good. Good.
That was the aim.
There we go. So Barburo 101 says there's a costly targeting in this game. Here's why that's not bold. Pac-12 refs. Pac-12 refs for this game. Yes, that is almost undoubtedly. Like, I was trying to figure out a way to have something that was like just a way to objectively measure this is a gong show. Because it will be a gong show at some point, and it'll just, I don't know whether that is like an obviously blown replay call or a bad targeting call, or they lose track of the number of downs or whatever it is. But it's like in this game, we always strive for objectivity, because otherwise we would end up just arguing about well, yes, the receiver did have the ball and take 4 steps, and then replay overturned it and overturned a scoop and score touchdown. But was that really a gong show? And like, yes, obviously it was. We were all there. We all saw it. But this is the spirit of this game.
The replay official buzzing down to check on a targeting that booted Sean Wade, which probably brings up that that comment there. Like a 15-minute delay to put 1 second back on the clock to make it like 13:02 instead of 13:01. It's like, what are we doing? Well, we got some commercials.
Pac-12 refs. Pac-12 refs. All right, Jason G says, can you guys enlighten me as to why no reporters asked Ryan Day directly if his tenure at OSU might be shaped by these NIL changes, and if he has had any thought or talks about going back to the NFL early? So the reason that you probably haven't heard any reporter ask that is because that is a question that it's not going to get answered. Like, you can ask that question and he's going to say, I'm not going to talk about it. Or he's going to talk about the fact that everyone, like, we've asked variations on the NIL question a million times. And it's just like the weather. It's just like everything else, where it's just like, well, everyone has to deal with it. So there's no use thinking about the what ifs and whatever. And I'm just focused on this team and winning this game and getting better today. And I can tell you what the answer you would get would be, and it would not be a satisfying answer. It would be, and it wouldn't, frankly, if someone asked it, and honestly, probably wouldn't even get reported, because the answer would be such a non-answer you wouldn't even report it.
Well, and I have asked him about NIL stuff before, and how, we're openly talking on one of these days about players being bought. And I was on signing day. Like, we're openly talking about this guy went for this much money and that guy went for this, and coaches are throwing players out there as, Drake May being $5 million. And I was like, so like, what are we even doing here? He's like, yeah, that's a conversation for another day. And everything's a conversation for another day. It's like, yes, we are going to talk about it. But it's for the off season. And right now, he's not going to say anything about the NFL. He would shoot that down so quickly. Just even this week, talking to players, young players, asking them about next year. And even, at this point, they're like, we still have hopefully 2 games to play. Like, I'm not really looking at next year yet. So that's where the mentality is. And again, we only have so many opportunities to ask stuff, and you have to pick and choose. Like, this is not going to be answered. So whether it would be an interesting, it's a great question if it would get answered, but it won't.
And we actually had a chance to talk to literally anyone we wanted to today. We had 45 minutes over at the College Football Hall of Fame during media days. And what we ended up doing then is we didn't bother talking to Ryan Day. Like, we have a camera set up on him, and you can watch the whole interview with him if you want to on our YouTube channel. But, we were all running around talking to all these other people that I had 5 minutes alone with Brian Hartline, which you never get 5 minutes alone with an assistant coach. This is like the one time all year that this happens, but it's 45 minutes. And the way it works is we're moving cameras from podium to podium, and we have long extended interviews with Marvin Harrison and CJ Stroud and Paris Johnson and Jim Knowles and Kevin Wilson and all these different guys. And while we're doing that, Tony's running around talking to all the young guys who we never, ever, ever get a chance to talk to for stories that are going to come out in January and February and that kind of stuff. So, we have these limited access windows where we get to talk to whoever we want to. and we're not going to be talking to Ryan Day at that point. Like the time you would maybe get a chance to ask Ryan Day a question like that, even if he was going to answer that, is at Big Ten Media Days over the summer when he's sitting there for an hour and you can fire away with whatever you want. That's when you can ask him bigger picture stuff. Like once the season's going, he doesn't really want to get into that stuff. Bootzilla says, you guys probably mentioned it, but Kentucky had a 100-yard receiver against Georgia. Receiver had 145 yards and they scored 6 points. How does that happen? We actually did a whole show on that game. If you search the Peach Bowl preview, Georgia, Kentucky, you can hear us. We watched the whole game and did like a half hour on it. So you can get the whole gruesome detail there. But the short answer was there were a couple, there were like 2 long throws, like 40, 50-yard throws later in the game, but Kentucky kept bogging down in the red zone. They kicked a couple field goals. They had, I think, a red zone interception in that game.
Yes, they did.
It was just kind of, they kept finding ways not to score. Georgia was up 16-0 in that game, and it was just kind of really low scoring, gross. Kentucky had a couple chances, but just didn't capitalize on them. So,
and again, temperature in the 30s, very cold, wind in the 12s, very difficult to throw in.
So next one was a comment on Jalen Carter. This was when I said that Georgia would have 1 sack. And I lost it. Where is it? Market ADC says Jalen Carter alone will have 2.5 sacks. I want to look up Jalen Carter's.
I think he only has 2 or 3 this year.
He has not been nearly as productive as you think. And we got a question about that. Why are his stats so unimpressive? And the answer is he's busy keeping all the blockers occupied. You have to block him with multiple guys. And when you block with multiple guys, then he doesn't get to the quarterback. But, he's chewing up a couple of your blockers and keeping everyone else occupied. Let's see. Jalen Carter has 3 sacks on the game, 3 sacks on the year, 29 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks on the year. So, yes, 2.5 sacks 2.5 sacks for Jalen Carter in this game would be fairly bold. After he had 3 all season.
That's a 2 or 3 pointer. Talking to, I think it was Christopher Smith, their safety, and it may have been somebody else on their defense, but one of the questions to him was like, what did you think when Jalen Carter picked up what quarterback did he hit? It was the
LSU starter. Yeah.
And just had him, in his arms like that. And his teammate was like, well, I was just hoping they weren't going to throw a flag. And I was like, you were hoping they weren't going to throw a flag. I was hoping he wasn't going to throw Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
It's like he just picked him up like the old ragdoll thing, and no penalty there because everybody's just being friends. So,
all right. Shelby Goldman says, "What's the vibe you get from OSU?"
I was looking at the transcripts from, and this is not a great vibe answer, but Ryan Day was said, talking to one of your players, they said this is a pretty PO'd team, and Day was like, they should be, and they have to be. We can't accept just not being aggressive in this. So they're very focused on being aggressive, and even talking to some of the backups, like I was talking for like Sonny Styles and stuff like that about next year. They're like, no, I've got a game to play. Like we'll worry about next year after this year, and so you got a lot of guys who are saying the right things. Locked and ready, eager to get this game underway, to stop talking about it, to get Michigan behind them, maybe to get Michigan in front of them. But other than CJ Stroud, I think everybody is looks like they're engaged, and not that he's not engaged. That's just how he is.
That's just how he is.
And
yes.
How difficult is it to follow that? And are we looking too hard at that? I think probably, but also it's you expect more emotion from your quarterback, I think, and not to be so forgiving. I don't even know what the right word is. Like, I don't, saying he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't. Saying, I don't get paid to run the ball. You don't. It's just, if he was as vociferous as Stetson Bennett, you could say what he's saying.
Yeah. Ahmed says it's been really enjoyable to listen to you fellas, get to know OSU a little bit better. Hope you fellas enjoy your time in the ATL and go Dogs. And we've had a nice time in Atlanta. The weather's fantastic today. It's like in the 60s, I think. So I may go out and do something outside.
65 right now.
65, yes. So yes, I may go outside and do something at some point today. Our hotel room overlooks Bobby Dodd Stadium, which is the home of Georgia Tech. I keep thinking I need to go down there and just like see if I can get in and just look around. We'll see if I can pull that one off. But yeah, it's been really nice. I like downtown Atlanta a lot. I've been to Atlanta, but I haven't like stayed downtown before. It's very, very nice. Everything's like really conveniently located.
I walked past the Waffle House today.
Look at you. You're basically Jeff Collins now. Fantastic. Get you a 404 hat. David Greenshield says over or under 12 targets from Marvin Harrison Jr. I will say over.
Yeah, well, that's a good number.
Over.
I'm thinking. Yeah, I like the over on that.
Yeah. All right. Quays Fresh says Xavier Johnson can return for a touchdown. That would be a 3-pointer. Actually, one of the things I looked up was neither of these teams has allowed a kick return of 40 yards or more this season. So, and Ohio State has not returned a kickoff for a touchdown since the 2010 Michigan game. So
were you going to try to get a 3-pointer out of a 40-yard return?
No, I was just kind of looking up stats to see what would be interesting topics to perhaps explore. So yes, Xavier Johnson kick return for a touchdown. That would definitely be a 3-pointer if that does happen.
That would have sufficed as a 5 or a 10-pointer.
Yeah. Dale Renicky says a lot on the line. Potential caught of shame in LA. Yes, this is either an extremely high stakes one or not at all.
Spring game.
Let's see.
How about that over or under 10 carries for Dallin Hayden from David Greenshield? Because
that one's more intriguing to me.
Ryan Day was asked, will we see more of Dallin Hayden in this game than we did in the Michigan game? And he said, yes, we will need Dallin Hayden to run the ball, to win the game. And so I think him and Mayan Williams dealing with a flu bug, stomach bug, Ryan Day said he was at practice today. So that's promising.
Yeah.
So that's one where Vegas might take that off the board for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, let's find out more about Mayan Williams.
What's interesting about that is Dallin Hayden is probably the third back, probably, maybe the second, but even if he is the third, he is more complimentary of Mayan Williams and Chip Trayanum than, those guys are more similar, and he's more like, well, when we don't need what they do, we do need what this guy does. That's why this is kind of interesting to me. My inclination would be to say under, but because I think after seeing Mayan Williams out there, he's now got another, 30 hours from the time that we saw him. 30 hours from the time that we saw him to 54 hours from the time that we saw him to continue recovering, get stronger, get better. I don't think you're riding him for 28 carries or anything like that, but you might give him 12 to 15. I don't think they're going to be running the ball that much, where if he's getting 12 to 15 and Chip Trayanum's getting 5, 6, I don't know that there's that many carries left over for Dallin Hayden.
Yeah, and you're probably going to want to get Xavier Johnson the ball a couple of times as well. You think maybe running out of the slot, something like that. So yeah, if you're the third guy, 10 is going to be difficult. But we have seen him take over games before, and if you find a hot hand, you have to ride him in this game.
Yep. Boy, Quays Fresh is just pumping out the extremely bold predictions. He's got Denzel Burke getting 2 interceptions. Any one player getting 2 interceptions in a game is almost never happens. I think the last time
Brad Roby has done it.
Well, I think someone did it against Tulsa. Didn't Marshawn Lattimore do it against Tulsa?
Jeff Okuda did it against Nebraska because one he caught from his butt, like his first interception in his career, I believe.
I'm gonna see if I can find the last time it happened in the bowl media guide.
But I will say Bradley Roby also dreamt that it was going to happen, so that supersedes any other 2 interception game. And so good job for Bradley Roby to dream the future. Some would call him a witch.
Dreaming it into existence. Yeah, bowl I'm gonna say it was Marshawn Lattimore and
against Tulsa.
Maybe, but you know what? I'm thinking of interception returns for touchdown. 2 interception returns for touchdown.
Now, corners at Ohio State, the school record for corners all-time interception touchdown returns is 2, and that's held by several. Yeah. Willie Cooker holds the school record for 3 career touchdowns, all in the same year. Tom,
I'm almost there.
Interception.
Intercepted 2 JT Tuimoloau out at Penn State this year. I forgot about that.
I was dumbly stuck in the secondary.
Yes. And then the last time at Buckeye intercepted 3 passes in the game, Damon Moore at Iowa in 1996. So, yeah, so JT Tuimoloau.
Going back 11 years, looking at like the Bradley Roby or whatever, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
It was a month ago.
All right.
Do we get super chat, or is that an old one?
That's Jordan. Let's see what Jordan says. Jordan says, any thoughts of doing a viewer call-in show? I feel like my disagreements with Tom would be best expressed in song.
You know, the problem with the call-in shows, because I've heard other people do them, it's the people. No. Like sometimes the reception doesn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we could figure out a way, then but what songs, and could people request them? Like Jordan, what songs were you thinking? And but again, PG. You know, so we gotta keep that in mind. Don't want Jordan getting all cussy on us.
Let's see. Quay's Fresh says Ballard's not playing against Georgia, and yes, I talked to Marvin Harrison and Kevin Wilson and Brian Hartline about Jaden Ballard today. Marvin Harrison had a lot of, very positive things to say. He's really coming a long way, all that kind of stuff. Kevin Wilson talked about him as someone who is going to be an impact player next year, but not don't necessarily, he didn't say don't expect to see him this weekend, but that was kind of the vibe. And then Brian Hartline just kind of talked more generically about young receivers. And it was like, it wasn't, like if someone's really right there knocking on the doorstep, they'll generally tell you. And so, I think he has made some significant strides, but you're still, the way Hartline expressed it is, if I play someone and I'm taking someone who's better off the field, then I'm doing a disservice to the whole team. So you can't really just do that. So
unless you rotate. Yeah.
So that would not be something that I would, not be something that I would necessarily
That's also exactly what they would say if they wanted Georgia to think that they wouldn't be playing.
That's true. Over under 2 sacks for JT Tuimoloau.
I will go under. Now, Georgia gives up. They don't give up a lot of sacks. Stetson Bennett gets away from those. Now, Kirby was. I don't know if Warren McClendon played or practiced today, or no, they practice.
They practice at 5 o'clock today. Okay. So I will be over at Georgia practice in a couple hours, and we'll see. We'll see if Ladd McConkey's out there, if McClendon's back out there. But so that's a little bit TBD. But any individual game, picking a guy to have 2 sacks, you can't
maybe
expect that.
Chase Young.
Does he have any eligibility?
No, but I'm saying like in 2019. If you boldly predict Chase Young to get 2 sacks, it's like, there's a pretty good chance he's going to.
Yeah.
So,
David Greenshield says, need a third receiver to step up. Who is the most likely candidate? I mean, I'm assuming the 2 are Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison. So I would say the third candidate is Julian Fleming.
Julian Fleming or Cade Stover?
Yeah. I mean,
we're talking pass catchers.
Yeah.
But, I have boldly predicted Cade Stover, of course, to have more receptions than Brock Bowers. I think that's an area where they could do some things. It's just Cade Stover needs to catch the ball. And CJ, the way the tight windows that he tries to fit it into Cade Stover doesn't necessarily always work. They need to find a way to get him a little bit more open so that it doesn't have to be so perfect.
Quace Fresh says blocked punt by Lathan Ransom this game, and we have seen that this year. He blocked one against.
Yeah, it's no longer bold.
He blocked one against Indiana. Wasn't he also the one who blocked it against Maryland? Yeah.
So I mean, that's maybe a 1-pointer if we're feeling that would be charitable.
That would be 3 blocked punts in the last 4 games, which would be pretty good. pretty good. Yes, and Glasswing Butterfly points out OSU basketball versus Alabama A&M, 3 p.m. on Big Ten Network. In case folks are interested. Yep. Tony's interested.
Well, and we'll be done by then, so that you guys can jump off, Yes, I will be watching that one and also doing football.
Over under 3 touchdowns for Emeka Egbuka. I think you have to predict under on any kind of number like that.
But is that a 3-pointer if he gets 3 touchdowns? Not for Marvin. We know that.
Yes. Yeah.
But Emeka, his career high is 2.
Yeah.
It's never been done in the history of college football.
Mhm.
Emeka Egbuka scoring 3 touchdowns.
Yep. If you guys can hit the thumbs up button for us, that does help the magical algorithm spit this show out and all of our other shows out to other folks who might be wanting to watch the absolute nonsense that we put out. Let's see. I think we've kind of gone through. Do you guys agree that Jaden Ballard and Hall are the X factors in this game? I mean, yeah. I mean, Jaden Ballard is. I'm a lot less. I think it's a lot less likely that we see Jaden Ballard in any significant role than I would have said 12 hours ago, and I wasn't super high on the idea of him being a.
What about Julian Fleming being the X factor and being a guy who is downfield catching balls, and it's a little inconsistent on whether that deep shot is going to be brought in by him, but if there's a guy that you can sleep on a little bit, if you're Georgia, it's him.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't that then if that's the weak point of your defense, then why not attack that? And is this one of those, 3 catches for 160 yards? Because he's had one of those this year where he had a couple of long catches.
Yeah.
And then Mike Hall getting back, I think that would be huge. And we'll see how many snaps he plays. I mean, he's healthy and he should play a bunch, but he said he's been healthy for a couple of weeks or for a couple of games. And really didn't play all that much, so I don't know that was actually true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You guys will tell you lots of stuff, and then it's like listening to Mike Hall interview when we were still in Columbus. It was kind of like you heard 4 different timelines for different stuff, and it was like,
yeah. And I think maybe he had his games confused. I don't know, but it's like this all just feels like lies.
Well, it's a little. When were you 80%? Okay, when were you 100? Yeah, and no one's ever 100%, but you were full go. That's the let's see. Stroud gets his 2nd career touchdown rushing against Georgia.
He didn't have one last year, and he hasn't had one this year. And the only one he's had is against Michigan State
in
48-yarder. That would be bold.
Yeah,
and I think I've tried that. I've tried that one.
Yeah. That's. I don't. That's one where I don't think he's going to run one in from 40 against them. So then are they going to be willing to run him in the red zone in short yardage where you're going to take, Georgia is punishing on the goal line.
QB sneak from the 1.
Yeah. Maybe
1 foot line.
Maybe, but yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily expect him to do that. Boy, they don't have a
rushing right there.
There we go. Rushing game log. I'm just looking through this. Yeah, now.
There in 2020.
Yeah, he has not had a rushing touchdown.
Look at Tom having to fact check people because he doesn't just believe what they comment on.
Crazy, but I don't know that I would have. Let's see how many games has he had positive rushing yardage? 79 against Northwestern, 8 against Indiana. 5 against Penn State this year. 9 against Toledo. 1 against Notre Dame. And then 13 against Minnesota in the season opener last year. 13 against Rutgers. 8 against Maryland. 1 against Indiana, and then 10 in the Rose Bowl.
So if you go back to this year, what's his total yardage?
35 carries for 74 yards.
I was just wondering if the 48-yarder that he had as a freshman was still more than he had this year. But no, there's still time.
Yeah, he had 79 yards against Northwestern and -5 yards against everyone else this year. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. All right. Emeka Egbuka, 12 catches, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushes, 53 yards.
Your Peach Bowl MVP.
Yeah, if he is, if it is the Emeka Egbuka game, that's
that would be a heck of. That would be similar to the way Jackson Smith and Jigba left last year and just put his imprint on the season, and then the expectations come for his junior season, and Yeah. So that's how the Ohio State slot position rolls.
Yep. And JJ says Mike Hall has 0.5 to 1 sack this game.
I don't think that's bold because I expect that to happen. I think that's like.
Well, I mean, a sack. Yeah.
He has not had a sack since the Michigan State game. He has not had a tackle for loss since the Michigan State game. And he wasn't healthy then, and he played 7 snaps and finished with 2.5 sacks, and then another snap was negated. A sack was negated by Zach Harrison personal foul. So in the 8 snaps that he played, he was involved in sacking the quarterback 4 times, but hasn't gotten to the quarterback since. What that means, Tom, he's due.
Yeah,
but I guess it would be bold because I don't even know if it's not 1.5.
Yeah. Quiz Fresh says over under 4 4th down conversions for the Buckeyes. Tony said 3 and pretended that was bold. So I guess.
Are you going to go over?
Over 4 is a lot. I think under push over in that order is the most likely. Marcus CDC with the super chat says, as a Georgia fan, it's been fun watching you guys. Good luck and go Dogs. It has been, Georgia fans, we've had, over the year, you get a mixture of different fan bases. Georgia fans have been, fun to chat with, and no one's too crazy. And it's interesting. There has not really been a ton of, the people saying, predicting 63-6 kind of scores or whatever. And, I think Georgia fans recognize that Ohio State in some ways, and I can just hear like the Michigan fans, like their ears are perking up right now as they know what I'm about to say. I think in a lot of ways, Ohio State represents potentially the biggest challenge or the biggest threat to Georgia. Not that Ohio State's necessarily the best team, but that Ohio State represents the team that has the most talent to potentially challenge Georgia, where you kind of saw Georgia and Michigan last year, and this year's Georgia team might not be quite as good as last year's Georgia team, and this year's Michigan team might be somewhat better than last year's Michigan team, but also they've got a lot of ground to make up. So is that fair that this Ohio State team might be the biggest threat to Georgia in the playoff?
Yeah, I think they have the most potential. If everybody plays their best game, Ohio State is the best of the 3. And so, yeah, you have to expect a team to play their best game, and because you need to play your best. Tom, during lunch, did you hear the conversation? And I don't know if these were Georgia writers or SEC writers, where they're talking about, I think the quote was, LSU's never won back-to-back national titles like Georgia is. So, it's already done.
Yeah,
it's already settled.
Yeah. Jordan Capital wants to know our thoughts on OSU offensive line keeping the pocket clean for CJ. I mean, Georgia is not a dominant pass rush team. They are very hard to run on, but the pass rush is not crazy great. So I expect CJ Stroud to have at least a decent amount of time to throw. He's not going to be able to sit back there and, do his taxes or anything like that. But if he's back there and he's got 3.5 seconds every play, I think that's reasonable. And then, does Georgia start adjusting and bringing more pressure to try and get to him, and then figure that out.
I think they'll need to bring 5 to get to him consistently. And because I don't know how much they're just going to sit back. I think they will do some sitting back and just try to keep stuff in front of them. But I do expect them to bring 5 because they just don't get there enough with 4, especially since Nolan Smith is out.
Let's see. How about a prediction on over/under on QB pressures on Stroud and Bennett?
I expect Bennett to be pressured more, but
also be able to escape more.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they'll force him out of the pocket, I think, more, and maybe Bennett. But Bennett is also. I'm interested to see how calm he is, because there are games where he plays where he knows like nobody can touch me, and then as the competition gets better, like that feeling stops a little. It changes. So I'm wondering to see what his feeling of Ohio State is by how quickly he gets out of the pocket, and where it's not men against boys type of thing that it is sometimes with him, because he knows like Missouri's not going to get me, even though then Missouri got him like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So
David Greenshield says the last 4 teams that have beaten Georgia have been able to sling the rock, and You look at last year's SEC championship game, and it was like the Jameson Williams show in that game, and that's Ohio State has the receivers that they can do that. I don't know that they have Alabama's defense from last year, but they've got, they have the guys, they have the dudes at wide receiver to potentially do that. And if Ohio State's going to win the game, it does feel like that's the way they're going to win the game. They're going to have to throw the ball over Georgia's heads and score long touchdowns and then just tackle on defense and not give up big plays. Quick stats, which team wins? This is from SW. One offensive holding call for Ohio State. No false starts for Ohio State. Who wins?
That would be a positive development. That would be part of a building block of a win. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're going, but if they do win, that's what the offensive line, the situation is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. 4 defensive pass interference calls against Georgia.
That doesn't matter. You got to get into the end zone.
Yeah.
You can't score touchdowns on pass interference. So they could have 4, 5, 6. I don't think it necessarily impacts, it may raise Ohio State's chances from 40% to 45%.
I think this is actually supposed to all be 1. 2 turnovers for Georgia, 1 for Ohio State. Georgia pressures quarterback consistently.
That to me, I don't think +1 for Ohio State is enough if Georgia's getting pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Daniel Henry says Alabama also held Georgia to 24 that game, which is what I think the Bucs have to do. And I think how many points like we'll play the mountain, the Price is Right mountain climber game. How many points before the mountain climber falls off for you, before he falls over the mountain? Is it 31 where it's like you get to that point and it's like, I don't think I feel great
Georgia
about
scoring that.
Georgia, how many points does Georgia score before you start going, I don't think Ohio State's going to win at this point?
I think you can do it 34, 31, 35, 31. It's if Georgia at 35, to me, I think then you're talking 38, 42, something like that. Mm-hmm. Now if it's a shootout, it is what it is. But I think 35. But I think Ohio State can score that. So I don't even know that I have that range. Because I think Ohio State has some offensive skill.
And 35 has historically been the number for Ohio State, where if they have scored 35 points or more, they have only lost 1 game in their history. That was the 2013 Orange Bowl against Clemson. And they've only then they tied 1, so they are 451-1, whatever the win number is. That has the win number in those conditions have changed. The loss and tie numbers have not changed for almost a decade now. So if Ohio State gets into the 40s, they have a decent chance to win. They have a good chance to win.
Yeah.
If you hold Georgia under third, into the low to mid 30s, I think that's where I think, Ohio State still has a decent chance to win. If you, 35, 38, if that wins the game for you, I think I would take Ohio State's chances at that point.
I think like if Georgia scores 31, is that a successful day for Ohio State? It depends on what the Ohio State offense is doing, because we've seen Georgia is okay just camping out and winning 16-0, 16-6, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yakov wants to know if we've gotten a chance to check out Mercedes-Benz Stadium, either inside and out. And yes, we have been over there. I've been over there 3 times in the last 2 days. You've been over there twice. So, I mean, it is big. It is shiny. It's
bright when the sun is out.
There's big windows on one side of the stadium. Let a lot of sun in. It's it's a big fancy NFL stadium, which I feel like I'm gonna, if we end up out in Los Angeles in a couple weeks, I'm gonna look at SoFi and go, it's another big fancy NFL stadium. It's just kind of like, they spent a lot of money here to make this big and palatial and super fancy and shiny, and
they did it.
And congratulations, mission accomplished.
And it only cost you billions.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I think we're more or less through here. And basketball started.
Yes.
You're missing basketball. Shame on you, sir.
Yes, so I need to get to this Ohio State Alabama A&M game, but I want to thank you all for joining us for this live bold prediction show. I hope it went okay. I won't know if it did until Saturday, and I'll let you guys know. But again, always thank you for the comments. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you guys for tuning in on, I believe today is a Thursday afternoon. So everybody have a great New Year's. We will talk to you again tomorrow. So don't worry about that. And then again the day after that. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again later.